Hey everybody, welcome back. Thought I'd do a quick video, well, as quick as I can with this game because things take a little while to explain. But we're in turn 4, and down in the south section of the maps, we're trying, as the Soviet players, the Soviet turn in Deadly Northern Lights, we're trying to dig out the one British battalion that has kind of hunkered down and got itself squared away in Copenhagen. And as the first action down the south end of the map, we're just going to haul off and do a ground support attack to support an assault there, and we'll take care of it. Kind of going from that, the idea was to sort of just pound these guys and see what happens. And I'm thinking maybe what I might do is, now that I've done this, is have a rethink, but let's see what happened, right? So to send in an air mission for this ground assault that we're going to do, we want to put some escort air in. So we've got these guys here, some MiG-23s and Su-15s and all that sort of good stuff, and some ECM support. And local air superiority was actually garnered by the NATO side, and they of course only have, it was a pretty brutal battle, but there ended up being 2 aircraft left and none for the Soviets, so the Americans or the NATO side got to have control of the skies. And so rather than attack these guys, have the interceptors fight the escort, these guys attempted to skirt around and hit the bombers, right? And so what we're doing here, that means that these chaps get to have a shot at these chaps before they attack these chaps. And they did that, put a damage and abort on this guy. So now there's only one attack aircraft going in against the strikers, and he manages to damage and inflict a step loss and abort that guy. That then means that we just go in with the 2 aircraft, and the flak does nominal damage, just puts a damage on this particular bomber here. And one of the little tricks that I did do is, because you've got to lay these things out in order, right? You've got to fill each box before you put the next one out, is I put my crappy bombers up on the first row here, and then put the nice chunky 753s, the 3 is the strike number. I put them in here to protect them, knowing that the air superiority only had a couple of aircraft, and that's why I put these extra guys in here, kind of as cannon fodder, if you want to think of it that way. All right, so that means that because we're attacking a battalion, all the strike factors are going to be multiplied by an extra 50%. So that's going to be a 3. And that's going to be a 4, because I think you round down in this game. So we're going to add the 3 and the 4, which is 7, to the combat value of the combat. So let's go have a look at the combat. And I'll try and bring bits and pieces of paper down, and I'll show you that. So scoot all the way down here. I'm going to try and put this somewhere where you can see. I really can't see. So let me zoom in here. Whoa. I think that will do it right there. Okay. So after the Poles landed and sort of captured bits and pieces around the map, they consolidated into the entirety of the division. So it's the 7th Polish Marines. They've captured all these other hexes of Copenhagen, and they fought the Danes here and eliminated them, but took a step loss in the process, or a combat loss in the process. And so that's going to affect the combat. And so now we're kind of attacking across this bridge, but really, the best terrain to be fighting in for the Brits is the fact that this is a city. I believe, and that's a +3 on the defense for them. I'm just making sure that's city. Yep, city. And so that's going to give them +3. So the Poles, not to be outdone. Now they've got a 9 combat value versus a defensive 4, but because this is a division and this is just a tiny little battalion, and these are all color coded on. You would see it if it was in close enough. I think this is kind of a blue tone to it instead of a regular black or white. So he's going to defend as a 1. So it's going to be 9-1 for the defense for the raw odds. But there's an optional rule that's going to be made available shortly. I can use the combat value for the naval guns, a quarter of that value, so 1, and there's 2 units here, so that would be 2. So I can add that as a defensive, kind of like defensive artillery, right? I can add that to this defense, so it's going to bump that up to 3. So now I've got a defense of 3 versus an attack of 9. But remember earlier on, I said we had the 7 factors from the air. We're going to add that to this 9, and that's going to give us I think it's 17 factors or 16 factors, whatever it is. It's going to give us a net 5-1. So then we're going to work out what all the die roll modifiers are going to be on our D10 combat results table. And this guy's got a 1 step loss, so that's going to be 1 for these guys. And then they've got 3 for the city, so that's going to give them 4. Let me make sure that I haven't missed anything here. Oh, and the last thing, this is flipped as a result of the combat. This was actually like this. So he, being British, he has a cadre rating of 6. So that's going to give the NATO defender another 2 for a net of 6 DRMs for him. Okay, got it? These guys are going to get, they're pissed off. This is the second time they've had to fight these guys. They're going to use non-persistent gas. It's the first time gas is being used, so we're going to get 2 for that. So let me just keep track of this. I said there was 6 for this guy. And this is just making sure that I did it right earlier on. And I said there's 2 for gas. There's going to be another 2 for the fact that this guy has no zone of control. So no EZOC means another 2, so that's 4. And that's everything he gets as an attacker. So the delta between those 2 is 2, right? So that means when we roll the die, which we did back over there, and I didn't use the frickin' red die that's destroying the Soviets, I rolled the blue die, which has a much nicer or more consistent set of results, or a better spread of results anyway. So then I rolled a 10 plus 2 on the combat results table on what did I say this was? 5-1, right? 5-1. On the plus 2 combat mod row is a contact. And that's the best, probably the best result, other than obviously an attacker loss, the best result that the Brits could hope for, because that ends the activity for this guy for the turn. He is done. The only way that we can continue our assault in here is if I bring one of these battalions in, or regiments in, and they attack, and it would be a 1, then it would be 4 factors versus 4 factors, right? Not particularly good odds there at all, dog. That's not looking good. Did that just flip over? I'm gonna have to look in the, I think it didn't. So I don't have another division on the board here that I can bring to the table and go through that exercise again. And I deliberately, kind of crossing my fingers as the NATO force, I did not bring air support in to support this unit, thinking that if these guys had a bad attack, they would try and attack again, and I would use air then. So me knowing both sides, what both sides potentially can do, I was trying to outthink myself there, or be a smart defender and not call in my air support until the second attack came. But it never eventuates. These guys have a contact, they're done. And unfortunately, the Soviet High Command has said, hey, look, Poles, all you're getting here, bro, is a division and these other Marines here. That's it. You got to take care of business because we're off to invade Finland next. As I look at the strategic situation, the Soviets have to take the Finns out so that they can, now that the Swedes are in the war, life is getting harder for the Soviets and not easier. It's very difficult just to knock out a battalion. And capture, and we're kind of behind the 8 ball. It's turn 4. We're behind the 8 ball in terms of acquiring VPs at the moment. So there's some fresh VPs over there that are lightly defended by really weak Finnish units. So the big brave Soviets are going to go over there and try and beat on them. And I don't know how it became an 11-minute video, but there you have it. All right, I thought I'd share that with you. Just a little snippet update on a combat, and hopefully that was of interest to you. All the best, and we'll talk to you again soon.